often we all are still living by traditions that have become our narratives, our scripts, that really the majority would really like to flex up a little bit because life changes, yet they need someone to address what we call the elephant in the room. Welcome back to another episode of the Overwhelmed to Resilient podcast. It's episode number 13, and I'm Dr. Phyllis. And in today's episode, we are focusing on run your race by embracing your life journey. Let me give you a little background on this topic. As many of you know, by following me through social media, that I have been feverishly in the midst of doing some cleaning at my parents' home, making room for grandchildren and great grands to join my brother living there. So full of a lot of emotion, but a lot of good stuff coming up. And I know that my parents are looking down from heaven, very happy to see that the legacy that they created continues to live on in current and future generations. So that's exciting. But I'm going to tell you, it has been quite a journey and quite tiring in the midst of helping family members and working full time and being available to my own household, right? My husband and my kids. So, but God is so awesome. It's just a blessing to be alive one more day with one more opportunity for him to continue to show me as he is showing you all every day what's possible when we lean on him and give him the control in our life, which is very hard to do, right? Yet back to the topic. So I have been, struggling with my own daily routine, which I feel is so important. I've given myself the permission to change up how I define my workout. And I feel it's so important that we just continually move. Don't get caught up in the scale, weighing ourselves, especially after a certain age. The scale can be deceiving. I think it's more important that we keep moving. So I have made it a priority to either work out with weights, to get out and walk, or ride my stationary bicycle, which I love because I can listen to inspirational messages or podcasts or books. I am a fan of the audiobook because I love books anyway. It's just with work and everything, my mind is racing. And I find that a good way to achieve goals in reading books is by listening to them. Because again, I can listen to them while I'm on the stationary bike. I can listen to them while I'm getting ready in the morning. I can listen to them while I am driving around for work. So, and it allows me to feel accomplished, and it just opens my mind to so many new thoughts, new people, new experiences. So I encourage you to really look at doing that. And I will be coming out soon with some recommendations that I have found really helpful. So that has been my routine, yet due to taking on some added duties, helping care for a family member at night, and that carrying over into the morning and having a narrow window to complete those tasks, get home, feed my dogs, make sure they're taken care of, they go outside. and prepare for my regular workday, that window becomes narrower and narrower. And I had to give myself the permission to say, hey, Phyllis, you're cleaning, you're lifting boxes, you're dusting, you're doing all these things. So I've given myself permission to know, and my body lets me know I'm still doing some exercise, I'm still moving. Yet I've still been wanting to get back on my stationary bicycle. So this morning, I was able to get done with my tasks, helping out my family member, and get home early. That was so exciting. I was just so excited. You notice how there's, certain things excite me. That excites me. It's a gift of time. So I was able to get home early and get on my stationary bicycle. I loved it. I was able to plug in and follow a video. It's, they give you coaching videos on writing. And I actually don't necessarily want to, it's on the body app. That's my heart. The body app is my heart. It has meant so much to my life. And I like it because I have options. So I go on the app. I'm able to pair with my Apple Watch, and the bike already has the body app also loaded on it. And I was able to choose a scenic ride, which I love those because I love the beach. I love looking at the ocean. I love looking at the mountains, but I especially like those beachside rides. And so I sit there and I'm able to follow. So for this morning, I chose the ride actually of a scenic view, actually here in California, not too far away. And I did not turn on any extra podcast or audiobook or inspirational message. I actually followed what the coach was talking about. And what struck me is number one, I had already coached myself up to say, Phyllis, you have not been on your bike for several weeks now. So don't talk yourself into, you know, trying to jump on this bike, pick up where you left off weeks ago. Because although I know I've been moving and doing other type of physical activity, I've learned from experience, you have to, when you go back to something, you have to give yourself some grace. You have to ease back into it. So, because for another time, I'll tell you about me jumping back in when I was doing my kids were competing gymnastics and I was taking a parent gymnastics class. I even performed. Yes, I did. And, I had been away from that for a while, went back and sustained an injury because trying to do too much the first day back. So with that planted in my mind, again, another story for another time. But with that planted in my mind, I told myself this morning, I'm like, I am going to just take it easy. So during this morning's ride, the coach said, and it stuck out to me, he was giving the recommended cadence, which turns into how many miles per hour that you're riding. And yet he said, run your own race. And although I already knew he was saying what cadence to use, I knew that I was quite comfortable in my skin, that I was going to accelerate if I felt I could. But what was more important to me today was I wanted to complete the 28-minute ride and feel that accomplishment and reconnect to something that's been so important to me. Yet I was so happy to hear him say to everyone who was going to be using that writing lesson, run your own race. And I thought of you all. I thought of you that I wanted to share with you why it's so important that we have to embrace our own story, the highs and the lows and the side turns and the loops and the steps backwards, especially now as I'm recording this episode. We are heading into the holidays. We've come out of Thanksgiving, and I'm recording this at the very beginning of December, and we are preparing for the holidays. I mean, you look around, right? People don't even wait for Halloween to go past before they're starting to look for Christmas. And Thanksgiving almost seems to be a pre-Christmas event now. I think a lot of it has to do with people want to feel the kindness, the warmth, the love, the happiness, the feelings of anticipation that come along with Christmas. For some, it's Hanukkah. For some, it's Kwanzaa. But especially as Christians, we look for that anticipation of new opportunities of light. And that can lead to a lot of good stuff, yet it also can lead to a lot of narratives, tapping into narratives of what you have to do to feel like Christmas has been a success. You have to carry on certain traditions to me, for it to feel like Christmas has been a success. Maybe your parents are still living, or they're ill, or they've passed away, or if it's a grandma or auntie or grandfather or someone who's important, who's established those traditions. And you feel like you have to carry that on for it to be success. And I want you this holiday season to run your race. I had to realize and embrace that my mom was an amazing cook. Now, I can cook, yet I'm not my mom. I'm not Dr. Ruth. Dr. Ruth Hayes, she could cook. And she could do it in her sleep. And also, she had that love touch. Yet she also had a mother and aunts and grandmothers who were awesome cooks as well. And my mom was a home economics major, consumer education major. And she's just phenomenal. And I'm going to tell you, there had been times over the years that I have felt bad because I can cook, yet I'm not the same type of cook as my mom. And yes, the first Thanksgiving after she passed in 2021, I stayed up all night. I cooked a 3-course meal from scratch, and I was exhausted. It was very fulfilling, don't get me wrong, yet I was exhausted. And because of life and everything that's been going on over the past months, I'm going to be totally transparent. Although I considered cooking this year, every time I said, well, I think I'll order this part of the meal, but I could fry the turkey. Because again, now, yes, many of you know I've decided to follow a vegan eating style. That's for my own health. I can sit next to somebody who eats meat. It's no problem. It's just a choice I made for my own health. Yet my family loves meat, so I don't mind cooking it. I cook for them and then I have my own meal. But every time I thought of cooking a meal, I said, no, I'm not doing that this year because I already was tired from all the cleaning. So I decided that I was ordering. I ordered the whole meal. And I allowed my husband to pick up the food for me. And I'm going to let you know, it was the best decision all around that I made. Number one, they enjoyed the meal. The cleanup was very easy. I went and had my part of the meal I loved, and I could actually rest. So I am not saying that is everyone's thing, but for those of you who need to challenge the narrative of what makes for the ideal Thanksgiving, especially if maybe due to loss or relocation of family members has impacted things, maybe tap into your family and find out, what is Thanksgiving or what does Christmas, what does it mean to them? What do they see as an ideal or successful Christmas? Often we all are still living by traditions that have become our narratives, our scripts, that really everyone or the majority would really like to flex up a little bit because life changes, yet they need someone to address what we call the elephant in the room, right? The unspoken truth. And again, the disclaimer is, I'm not saying traditions are not important, because traditions are what hold us together. What I am saying is that there is nothing wrong with periodically checking in on those that will be participating in the tradition to see maybe if there are family members who have different ideas, or maybe they've always wanted to do something just a little bit differently so that they're engaged. Because as all of us develop and mature and experience life, we just might find that there's different things we want to do. And I think it's also opening up room for people to help. And so, getting back to the topic of running your race, which is embracing your own life journey, is permission to question tradition, permission to question your perceptions, your thoughts, the scripts that you've been living by all of these years, the permission to say, okay, mom did it this way, grandma did it this way. Whoever is the key person or someone you look up to, at least ask the question. You may still come back saying, no, I think the way they did it really worked. No problem. Then take it and make it your own. Live life at your speed and do it your way. Because often when we try to run our race or live our life caught up in our brain, caught up in our thoughts, our perceptions or misperceptions, we end up expending a lot of energy trying to fulfill expectations and roles really aren't for us to fulfill because we're just running, full steam ahead because we just assume that that's what people expect. We just assume that I've got to do Christmas a certain way or else I'm not being a good mom or I'm not being a good sister or aunt, whatever it is. Oh, I have to try to fulfill this need this way. We create a lot of narratives that lead to guilt because we are setting up the wrong expectations for ourselves based on narratives that are not for us to live by. Maybe they were at one time, but they're no longer ours to carry. And mom and dad's narratives, it was good for them. And it's for us to take the good parts or take the lessons that either they gave us or we experienced by, living with them. But then we have to kind of let it become a part of who we are and make it our own. And those narratives, those thoughts, those experiences that no longer fit in where God is taking us, we have to let it go. And I will say that that's been the biggest release for me. And I want it to be a big release for you, the permission to embrace your life journey, to run your race, the race that God has for you to run. Because when you live the life that God has for you to run, it's just going to feel right. Doesn't mean there's not going to be bumps in the road. Just like with me on that bike. I'm going to tell you, I looked at the time. I was like, I must be at 28 minutes. No, I was at 14 and still had 14 left. Yet I kept going. And in this case, I rode my race. I rode my race and just kept going the best I could at my pace. Pushed myself when I felt like I could push, pulled back on the tension when I felt I needed to my knees were letting me know, okay, you got to ease up a little bit on us. We're a little rusty. But just like I got to the end of those 28 minutes today and felt so great, you will too when you start running your race, when you do the work, which I know you can do it. You're right there. It's taking the first step to identify those narratives, those scripts that you have been living by that you know deep down. They no longer fit you. They don't feel right. And you just feel like it's almost like a piece of clothing that's just too tight that you can't breathe. Because God is telling you, yeah, that may have suited you before, but I've got something new for you. And for you to be able to step forward, I need you to take that off, take that binding thought, narrative off, and take the first step forward. I know you can do it. You just have to face those narratives, give yourself permission to let go of those narratives and run your race, ride your race, Live your race, live your life so you can embrace your own life journey. I hope that this has been a helpful episode for you. I enjoy meeting you here every week to encourage you. And as I encourage you, you encourage me. Because that's what it's about, is encouraging each other as we run our race and we live life with purpose, presence, permission, all the good stuff. I love you. I pray you have an awesome week until I see you again back in the Overwhelmed to Resilient podcast. Take care and be well. I'll see you next time. Bye now.